Barrington Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. It's about 7:05 p.m. And I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Brainerd? Here. Trustee Hayes?
Present.
Trustee Perkins? Here. Trustee Schaller?
Here.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Here.
Trustee Van Ryn? Here. And President Burke?
Here, thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to ask those who can to rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And while I'm on my feet, I just want to show everybody something. There you go. Van, would you please show off our beautiful new flag that was procured by our clerk, Rebecca, and it's taken a really long time, but we had a flag that was so old, it was 3 logos ago. That's how old it was. And people didn't even recognize it. So, thank you, Rebecca, for getting that new flag in place. I love it. And feeling very modern all of a sudden. So, with that said, next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting dated Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the clerk, please, on those minutes? If not, sure, would like a motion to approve those minutes, please. So moved by Trustee Schaller.
Second.
Second by Trustee Perkins. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brainerd?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, moving right into President's remarks, item 5. We have a special guest with us tonight, Mr. Brian Thompson from the Honey Lake Bee Company. A little background, Mr. Thompson purchased a property on Pepper Road from us and has plans to build a beautiful new honeybee business there that will be part educational, part retail, and raising some bees there. And we thought, as he comes to us for the unique requirements for his business, and before he visits with our Plan Commission, this is what we're calling a courtesy visit, to learn a little bit more about what your plans are. So Mr. Thompson, if you'd like to come up and address the board, and if you would turn the microphone on and use that, we're very happy to have you here. You're going to educate us a little bit, and I know that some of the trustees might have some questions for you about your business and the things, particularly those kinds of variations that you might be asking for. How do those fit into the overall scheme of what you're trying to do over there on Pepper Road? So with that, welcome.
Thank you, President Burke and the trustees for having me tonight. My other partners, my wife and son, couldn't make it here tonight. They're actually downtown at an event, so I am here. So that's why they're not. So I'm going to go kind of quick. Welcome to questions. I know these times short. So a little bit of background on myself. If you didn't really know, I started keeping bees in the 70s in Barrington, Michigan.
Is that you?
That is me. The skinny guy is me. Believe it or not, with all the hair and the skinny. Yep. So I started a business actually when I was growing up called Thompson Assembled Beehives. I sold summer beekeeping equipment to big beekeepers through college. Then after college, my wife and I graduated in horticulture. After our horticultural careers, after about 30 years of that, we came back to bees. So about 10 years ago, we started Honey Lake Bee Company. We started just a couple hives, didn't really think much of it. Went to the Valentine Farmers Market, it sold out so quick, and to get some more beehives, so we continued to grow. During the time, we invented this little device called a queen cage holder that beginning beekeepers use, and patented it, and now it's carried by all the major distributors for beekeeping equipment across the country. So, and this is kind of a picture of their ads. Well, that's a quick synopsis, and that brings us to tonight. So I wanted to talk about bees in in beekeeping terminology that you might see in ordinances to kind of give you a visual of what you're reading. A lot of the ordinances that I've seen over the years have been copies and copies. And some of them are kind of interestingly copies from down south, and they involve bees that we don't even have here. But that's for kind of interesting how things kind of get copied around. So in North America, there's about 4,000 different species of bees. So we're going to be talking about bees, not wasps or hornets. So bees are vegetarians. They only visit flowers. They're only interested in nectar and pollen. They're not interested in Coke cans or hamburgers or hot dogs or you. Typically, you don't see these bees because, again, they're not interested in you. And that includes honeybees. So honeybees in the middle, and these are all bees around it, so they come in all shapes and sizes. Some are very small, some have very different colors, but they're all vegetarians. So they don't eat other insects, they don't eat meat, and they're only interested in plants. The guy on the right is the yellow jacket. He's the one that causes beekeepers more grief than anything else. Because most people associate the yellow jacket, which is a wasp, which eats bugs, which eats other insects, which does come around people, which does like a can of Coke, and does like hamburgers and hot dogs, and comes to your perfume and will come to you because they're looking for any type of food. So the yellow jacket, a lot of times people call it a bee. And I can tell people, calling the yellow jacket a bee is like calling a cat a dog. They both have 4 legs, a tail, ears, fur. If I were to ask you to describe the difference, it's not size, but we all know the difference between a cat and a dog. Very different personalities, very different habits. Same thing with a yellow jacket versus a honeybee on the left. Honeybees are, again, vegetarians, wasps. Yellow jackets in particular actually attack honeybee hives and kill and eat honeybees. When I was growing up, everybody killed bees. In the 70s and 80s, it was just kind of a thing. Nobody was that particular. Interestingly, yellow jackets were not that big of a problem because they were lumped into the bees and everybody just killed bees. Now, everybody's much more attuned to honeybees and they don't kill yellow jackets thinking they're a bee. And so our yellow jackets have become much more of a problem for beekeepers, and they attack and kill hives in the late fall. Honeybees, unlike all the other bees, are the only one that overwinters and eats their food during the winter and stays very much alive. They'll keep their hive 80 degrees today. If you were to open up a beehive, they'd be very much alive and be 80 degrees inside of there. All the other bees hibernate. Queens go and hibernate in the leaf litter, then they come back out and start a new colony. Yellow jackets are similar to those other bees in that their colonies will bloom in the late summer, usually in August, September. We see large populations. Food supply starts to dwindle for them, which would be normal bugs and things. So they start coming around people. They start getting lots of calls about bees in the late summer, and they're always yellow jackets. Any questions between those two? That's kind of important. All right. So now about bees. This is a typical apiary. We can have an apiary is just defined as either one hive or many hives. It doesn't really matter how many are there, but that would be considered an apiary. It's just a location. This is a typical apiary of ours. The reason we lift them off the ground, our main pest in this area is actually skunks. Skunks like to eat honeybees. A lot of things like to eat honeybees, but skunks as well. By lifting them off the ground, then the skunks can't get to them. Raccoons, deer, everything else is fine, but the skunks. And each one of them, can we go back one? Sorry. So each one of those stacks is a beehive, and each one of those stacks has one queen. And those stacks can grow big or small, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. But that is one hive. That's considered one hive, okay? In Chicago, so this is a service that's voluntary. You can register your beehives with what's called Bee Check. And these are all apiary sites. They're not individual hives, but they're individual apiaries that were voluntarily entered into this program. And what it's for is for people who spray pesticides to be able to notify beekeepers. But I put this up just to kind of give you an idea of how many apiaries there are. And you can see that the concentration seems to increase as you get into Chicago. And many of those areas probably don't allow beekeeping, but there are a lot of beehives out there. And this So how do we start beehives? In the 70s and 80s, when I was growing up, we started them by catching what are called swarms. You probably have heard about it. They hang in the trees, and we'll see some pictures. We didn't have what was called varroa destructor. It came here in the late 80s. It's a mite that lives on the bee. It's kind of like a tick, and it brings and transfers diseases through bees. It only takes 2 or 3 mites per 100 bees to kill a colony. When the mites first came here, many of the old-time beekeepers did not believe that there were mites on their bees. I have never seen a mite on a bee. I have seen mites on a piece of paper, a white piece of paper, but on a bee is nearly impossible to see it. Because of these mites, thousands and millions of hives have been killed over time in the last 20, 30 years. There's very few wild honeybee hives left. Most of them only live for a year or 2, and then they succumb to mites. Because of that, a whole new industry has developed. And these are what are called packages. The white packages are coming from California. This is a semi. It looks like a trailer, but that's actually a full semi. And it'll hold 20 pallets. And each pallet has about 120 packages. And each package is a complete hive ready to go for the new beekeepers. So this is what a package, a wooden package looks like. And in different parts of the country, they have different standards. It's not a formal standard, but wood packages come out of Georgia. The plastic white ones come out of California. Don't ask me why. That's just what they decided to do. So when you see a semi-load of packages like that, those are California, and these are Georgia. Those are the 2 main areas where all the packages come to resupply the Chicago area. And these semis will come, many of them, every week, starting in the middle of March all the way through May. That's when they'll resupply the whole Chicagoland area. Last year, we lost 80% of our hives due to mites. So we had 200 hives. We lost about 160 hives. It's very common to lose many hives. Growing up, 10% losses were very normal and very acceptable and very easy to deal with. So this is a picture of wooden packages, actually, with bees. Each package has 3 pounds of bees, and then there's 1 queen, and she's hanging by this little cage inside the package. So that queen actually did not come from the same hive as those bees that will be in here, but then they travel together to live in this. Once they're delivered to the distributor, the people who bought it will pick it up usually the next day, and they'll install it either that day or the next day. This is only a short-term beehive, so to speak, very short-lived. There's no home, there's no place for them to live, they can't get out of it. So, here's that short little video. Zooms in on it. So there's about 10,000 bees per package. 3 pounds of bees. Bees are sold by the pound. With a queen, 1 queen. Any questions about that?
Is that what you refer to as a nuclear hive or
Nope.
nucleus hive? Okay, that's different. Okay, I'm reading ahead.
You're okay, that's okay. But this is how they first come. So they'll come in packages. Yeah. So those are nukes. So what we do is we'll take packages and then we make a nuke. So a nuke just stands for nucleus hive or small hive. And you may hear referred to as 5-frame, 3-frame, or sometimes the ordinance will say a 5-frame or less nuke. So this is a nuke. It has 5 what are called frames in it. And a frame is what the bees live in. That's their honeycomb. So there's 5 of these inside this package, and most nukes are 5-frame nukes. That's pretty typical. With this scenario, the bees can now start to live. They have some place to raise their brood, start collecting nectar, pollen, things like that. They have to be open. You open them up, and they'll fly in and out, and it's actually a true colony now at this point. It can survive in this probably for 4 to 6 weeks before it becomes overcrowded. So we bring in packages, we install them into nukes, and then we sell them in about 4 to 6 weeks to beginning beekeepers generally. And the reason the beginning beekeepers can buy either packages or nukes. Obviously the nukes are going to be more expensive, but there's less risk to the beginning beekeeper. Getting the bees out of the package can be daunting. When they're in the nuke, the queen has already been released out of her cage, and everything is ready to go, and everything is going along just fine. So there's less risk to the beginning beekeeper. So we sell many more nukes than we do packages, but we create hundreds of nukes for beekeepers. And that process starts about mid-March and goes all the way to June. Package or nukes will be sold all the way to June. We also sell queens. So each one of you saw that little cage in there. So in these boxes will come queen. Sometimes beekeepers, if they have a hive, they may do what's called a split, and they'll split the hive and create two hives. They can let the hive create a queen, or to speed things up, introduce a new queen to it. So we sell queens as well. And we'll sell queens all through the summer. And then once the weather's warm enough where we can start raising our own queens, we actually start raising our own queens. And locally raised queens are always better than these queens that we usually. These queens will come from Hawaii, California, are usually the main queen breeding areas, and Georgia, but the California and Hawaii are the main areas. So here's a picture just to kind of show how many bees are. We were installing packages this day, and if a bee gets kind of lost, she just lands on something and she's landing on my head. You can see I don't have any gloves on. They're not attacking me. They're actually very gentle creatures. And that's, yeah. After about 3 weeks, we go through the nukes. We'll check the queen to make sure she's been released and she's laying eggs and everybody's healthy, no diseases, and everything passes. Then we put it up for sale. Nukes will then turn into hives, or full size hives. And this is another one of our yards. So there's probably about 35 hives here. And you can see the stacks are different sizes. And that just again is an individual hive. At the peak of the summer, if the hive is doing really well, there could be up to 60,000 individuals within that hive. As with people, some people grow big, some people grow small, and same with beehives. They can always start at the same time, and it all turns on the queen. How she, named as we all know, the queen bee is the queen bee, right? So, that particular yard is this one right here. I just took it this the other day. I just wanted to show how close it was in proximity to the houses and also to the business. It's not ours, it's actually the maintenance building for Kemper Golf Course. So even though they're that close, I've never had a call of an issue with any of the residents that live right across the fence. Or, in fact, a lot of those are our customers. They buy honey from us, or for the maintenance. And during the day, this is in the afternoon, but during the day where my truck is, those are lined with their cars. It's actually their parking lots. They park right next to our house. I've never had anybody have a problem with any of them. One of the things I like to do is teach people and bring people out, open up beehives, especially those that are the most scared of bees and have these fears of bees. And this is a good friend of ours, and she was petrified. Now we put her in a suit. You can see she doesn't have a full suit. She's just wearing jeans. She does have gloves on, but I didn't take a picture. But later, I got her to take her gloves off and hold that frame with the bees on it without any gloves on. People are shocked at how calm bees are. Bees can sense your fear just like dogs can. If you're not fearful, they'll be perfectly fine. And this is just the other day I took that picture and then I put the little works. Just a little video, there you are flying right before the snowstorm. I was just checking on it. You can put your hand down in front of a beehive and then walk across it. Just to kind of show how calm. I rarely wear gloves when working with bees. Do I get stung? I do. I work a lot of hives, I move rather quickly. I usually get stung because I pinch a bee, because I'm moving too quick. But I like to work with my hands, because actually you don't injure as many bees when you just don't have gloves on. Always wear a veil. Being stung in the face is never fun, even for me. And I've been stung many, many times. Now, this is the other way that you can create a hive. And this is a swarm. And when swarms occur, it's when the bees are the most gentle. And you've probably seen lots of YouTube videos of a lady who's working with bees and nothing on, or no protective equipment on. But working with swarms is when they're actually the bees don't have a home, so they don't have anything to defend, and they're very receptive to presenting them with a new home, which would be a new box in this case. With some comb in there, you can just drop them right in, shake them right off. Perfectly fine.
Voila.
All done. This is how we used to start knives back in the day before Varroa Destructor moved to North America. You have to go through the whole video. Oh, you just hear it. I just seen it so ripped out. So I hope I didn't take too much time. I kind of went through that quick. If you want, I have a couple ordinances. If you want to kind of look at them, they're kind of go to the next one. And I showed these to you just for terminology. This is actually North Barrington's, but in keeping of honeybees, the European species Apis mellifera. So that's the only bee we keep up here. The Apis mellifera scaleria is actually the Africanized honeybee, which cannot live here. So why do they have it in North Barrington orders? I have no idea. Nobody would want to keep them, and nor could they live here. The Africanized honeybee can only live in warm areas because it can't overwinter. It doesn't cluster. Our European honeybee forms a very tight cluster and can live through the winters, because the Africanized ones can't. And then it talks about how many hives and a lot of times they work these nucleus hives in. I'll tell you, not many beekeepers are keeping nucleus hives. It's not, for some reason, somewhere along the line, somebody said something about nucleus, so they've now mirrored it to how many hives you can have. But very rare, many beginning beekeepers will actually keep nucleus hives. Any questions?
No, you did a great job, very informative, so it would be our custom is to just go around the dais.
Yeah.
So I'll start to my right to Trustee Hayes. Questions for Mr. Thompson?
No, I'm getting excited of seeing what you're trying to do. I think it was very useful for me even to just, I knew about the loss from the bee, but I was out there that day with Andy and I were both there. There's thousands of bees on the old tarp.
Yeah.
Pool. But this was helpful to understand how they come, how they stack. The nuclei is really a temporary 2 or 3 month deal, and then you got the hives themselves. So I appreciate I love listening to it, and hopefully that'll help others as you go forward in the process.
Well, one thing you did mention was water. So bees need water. They use a lot of water. That's why they were on those tarps. So you'll see a lot of times in ordinances they talk about having water at your site, which is very pertinent because bees actually do use a lot of water in their hives. Yeah. And bees will travel 2-3 miles. I didn't mention that. So bees, when they travel 2-3 miles, they don't just go that far just to do that. They're very smart in that they can select the highest quality nectar or pollen, which is the closest. And once they find that cost benefit of spending the energy to go to it, then they communicate that to the rest of her sisters in the hive, and they're very focused on that particular flame until that resource either dries up or moves on or stops blooming. Many beginning beekeepers are actually disappointed when they put beehives on their property that they don't see a lot of bees on their property. And that's because they probably maybe don't have plants that are most desirable to bees, and they're moving on. I put chairs up at hives at our house, and we'll go out in the evening, and it's fun to walk. You watch a campfire, you watch the bees come in, and they just go up and they disappear into the sky because they found something that's most beneficial to them, and it's not necessarily something that's going to be on their property. I think that's the most surprising to beginning beekeepers.
Thank you for being here, first off. That was very informative. I'm just curious, so you mentioned that the queens typically come from California or Hawaii. And so how do the queens reproduce? Like, is there like a big king dead? Or, I mean, I don't get what's going on. How do they?
You want to know about the virgin bee?
No, I mean, I'm like, wait a minute, and what's the difference? How can you tell? I know this sounds ridiculous. How can you tell just like a regular bee from the queen bee?
So there's a size difference. Yep. And
Okay.
so from experience, you can pick them out. I glossed queens are typically marked with a color, and then it's an international code for a color for every year. And that way, then you, as a beekeeper, you can see who your queen is, because it's hard to distinguish her. She does not leave the hive. She
You
stays
mean
in
if they're
there.
marked by a human?
By a human, yep,
Okay.
with a color, yep.
Okay.
Yep. Raising queens, a hive can raise a queen, but it can take about 4 to 6 weeks until that queen is raised and comes back and is mated and starts laying. So to shorten that time, you buy queens. That's why we would buy a queen. Or we're looking for particular breeds of queens. So there's Carnolians, Italians, Buckfast, Russians, all sorts of different types of bees that are subspecies. They're all Labus mellifera, they're all the ones that we're talking about. But they're bred for different purposes, different things. Did I just confuse you?
I know. Well, like, I mean, but like how, so you said they come from California or from Hawaii, but is there just like queen growing places?
Queen breeders.
Like
They
queen-
call them queen breeders.
Okay.
They specialize in raising queens.
I think Trustee Perkins.
I'm gonna
No.
Google it. I'm gonna go ahead
How do you
and
get to
Google it.
become queen? That's what she wants.
Classes. It's a whole,
No,
yeah.
We'll
It's
take
a,
class.
There's one where she goes.
Yeah, more than programs.
that's why you have to come out.
I know.
This is why, that's one of the things I love about having people come out and learn. We'll have some observation beehives in our building so you can see them. And then if you wanted to go out and visit the hives, that's the whole bee, what we call a bee experience, which I think is going to be really exciting for a lot of people to do that, and to learn in depth more about what you're asking about.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chapman.
Thank you, and very educational. So what do you plan to do on the property in Pepper Park related to bees?
So we're probably going to have probably 20 to 30 of the standard hives, and we'll probably have hundreds of nukes will pass through Pepper Park, and hundreds of packages will pass through Pepper Road, if that's what you're.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And that's one part of our business. So our clientele is really divided into two very different groups. One is beekeepers who really know what, are looking for this. And the other is your typical consumer who's looking for really local quality honeys and related products. And those two groups are very different customers. And for that reason, we're going to be very protective that we don't have bees just everywhere. Because our customer coming in for honey doesn't want to have that experience of trying to walk through a whole bunch of bees. And I don't anticipate that to ever be an issue. Having been around bees for so long, you know how to handle them, how to treat them, where to place them, things like that. The site is not going to be set up to produce a lot of honey. It's more of an educational site. So the hives that will be there are going to be more for educational purposes.
But you still will do retail honey.
We'll do retail honey. We have over 200 hives all around this area. We have a few at Friar Farm, but we have over 200, and we'll probably expand that. It won't be on our property. We'll probably expand to maybe 300, 400 in this area. All the people whose properties we put them on, we don't pay to put them there, and they don't pay us.
You say they go out and search for nectar. Where would they be searching and what would they be searching?
All depends on the time of year. So early in the spring, your maple trees, and a lot of trees are actually big producers of nectar and pollen. We don't even realize it. And they're all up high. So all your maples in the early spring are your biggest pollen and nectar producers. The ones that we see on the ground, scilla, crocuses, things like that, you'll see the bees being on those on the ground. As we move into summer, dandelions, basswood trees again. Your basswoods, little leaf lilies are huge producers of basswood honey. It's a very sought after honey. Black locust trees, another tree. And then as we move into summer, the wildflowers, all of the prairie plants produce a lot of different types of very unique honeys. And then as we get into fall, the only honey that we actually segregate off as a particular honey is the goldenrod honey. It's a very lax honey to be produced in this area, and only some of our yards really produce enough that we can harvest. But it has very distinct flavors to it. And so we do segregate our honeys from spring, summer, fall,
see a lot of bees?
No.
No, they don't.
If you didn't tell anybody that they were there, they won't even know they're there.
Okay.
They won't have any idea. Again, the native population of bees is pretty much gone. And that used to be quite large. And now they're all gone. Your native bees are very small in numbers. And that's why you really don't see them, and honeybees don't really compete with it. A lot of those native bees are very specific to certain plants. And honeybees are very specific to other plants. Honeybees are very discriminating about which ones that they want to go to. They're looking for the highest quality. They sense it from the hairs on their body as they fly, which nectar source or pollen source is the highest quality.
One final question. Bumblebee.
Yeah.
About the only bee that I've seen hanging around flowers in our area. What type of variety is that? And is that
So they're
different for these guys?
So if you think of in terms of numbers, honeybees being at the top, bumblebees are next. And they are a native bee. And that's one of the few larger colonies of bees, the bumblebee, but they don't overwinter as a group. Again, they overwinter as individuals. They do produce very tiny amounts of honey called honey pots. Growing up, I used to actually collect live bumblebee colonies and move them to a nature center. They're very, very interesting insects in themselves. But they are used in commercial production of tomatoes inside of greenhouses because the bumblebee is very efficient at pollinating tomatoes. Honeybees are not. Honeybees are very good at pollinating a lot of crops, from almonds and cherries to cucumber and pumpkins, but not tomatoes. But bumblebees are.
Is a bumble a vegetarian?
Bumblebees are vegetarians. It's a bee. All bees are vegetarians. That's why you don't see the bumblebees when you're eating. They're very easily distinguishable to everything else, right? But you never see them when they don't problem your pop can or anything like that. Yep.
Thank you. Very good.
Mr. Gray?
I have been waiting to ask you questions. I'm really excited because I love honey. I've had your honey. It's outstanding.
Thank you.
And I have a couple of questions on your overall business. What percentage of your business is selling the nukes and the queens versus the retail side?
Sure. Percent-wise, right now, it's probably about 10 to 15% of our business.
So the majority of your business still is on the retail
It
side?
is. It is.
Okay, so this is kind of a new venture, having this site, which is the experiential part of it,
Correct.
educational side.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. How many other bee distributors doing the nukes and everything are in this area?
There's 2 in Illinois, in Chicagoland, larger. There's many small ones, but there's 2 I would call them larger. They're ones located very far down south, and ones way far west. Otherwise, you have to get into Wisconsin. So we actually, that's one of the reasons for picking this spot, is we kind of, a lot of the business comes from the Chicagoland area.
So it's a good
It
location.
is a very good location. We purposefully not try to expand that part of our business because we work from our home. And all of what we've been doing right now, people pick up from our house. Our neighbors, I don't think they never had any problems with bees or anything like that. And they see very increased traffic, I'm sure, when we have pickup days. But I think that's why we haven't really pushed this part of our business.
You mentioned that you have hives, 2Cs and 3Cs around. Do you have any other yards?
Yeah, we have one just outside of Lake Barrington. It's in Wakanda, off of Roberts Road. That's where we currently raise all of our nukes. So we'll put 200-300 nukes out there, and there's about 35 hives at that location. All of our other locations that we install hives at now, it's a minimum of 12 hives to put them on somebody's property. I mean, we don't do anything less than that anymore. My back, my legs, the time, I don't have. So I have to be, it has to be 12 or more. Our hives hold, our stands hold 4, so that's why 12. Yeah.
My last question.
Yeah.
Thank you for knowing. But how long do queens live?
So that's a good question. It used to be queens would live 3-4 years. Typically now we say about 2 or 3 years. For commercial beekeeping, tend to
So if I wanted to start my own little hive, how much of an investment would it be?
You're looking at probably about $1,000 annual.
Expensive hobby?
It's a very expensive hobby, and you hear a lot of beekeepers talk about how that little jar of honey is quite expensive.
$1,000.
Yeah.
So when are you going to start the tours so I can come and do that?
As soon as we get the building up and going. That's something I really enjoy doing. I did this when I grew up in, you caught it in Birmingham, Michigan, Cranberg, if you're familiar with it at all. I worked at the Cranberg Nature Center. That's where I started beekeeping. I had two wonderful mentors that taught me a lot growing up. I was known as the bee man all the way through middle school, high school. I used to bring live bees and observation hives to school with me, walk around in class. I can't even imagine doing something like that today. But I love teaching classes and taking new people out and exposing them to bees. It's an amazing world that most people just don't ever have that chance to experience.
Thank you for coming and sharing your knowledge.
It's wonderful to have you. Thank you so much. A couple of questions. Once you open your retail store and facility, how many employees would you imagine needing help?
Yeah, that's a good, because we're expanding from, was just my wife and I, and now our son's working for us full-time. We do have another girl that's working for us almost full-time. When we open the store, probably going to add at least 2 or 3 more on top of that. And then just see how things go. Really important to grow slow to me, just as from a business perspective. But we hope that it's more. But, we do 7 farmers markets. So that's where a lot of our business is right now. It comes from those farmers markets. And so we really needed a space to work, to work on, prepare for that, versus doing this all from our house. But the retail, I think, is going to be more than we may expect it to be. The experience, and we want the property, a beautiful piece of property, so that people will come and maybe have baby showers, do other things on the property. Because we're both horticulture majors, so it has to be great for both of us. That's really important to us.
Great. And one stat that caught my ear, you talked about the very climate control at 80 degrees. How do
Yes.
they do that? Do they generate that energy?
Yeah, so they'll vibrate their wings and they'll eat their stored honey. So they make honey. I always believe they make the honey for themselves, not for us. The one thing they don't know is how much honey they're going to need for the winter. So typically in this area, they need about 60 to 70 pounds of honey. Honeybees, busy as a bee, they'll just make as much honey as they can, and then we take that excess. So they eat their stored honey, they'll vibrate their wings, they form a very tight cluster, and the outer bees will work their way in. The queen always stays in the middle, and they kind of circulate in and out. For the cold, when they're cold, they move in, get warm, and they move out. But yeah, it's pretty neat to go. If you follow me on Instagram or anything like that, you'll see, I usually put some pictures in the spring, early spring, we'll start opening hives and to see, thousands of live bees, moving about on cold days. It's amazing to see. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks for coming out. How do you protect the bees from pests? Do you use chemicals, pesticides? And if so, how do you make sure it doesn't get into your supply base?
Yeah, that's a good question. So are you in reference to the mite? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah. So there's organic treatments that you can use. A lot of them are also mechanical type treatments. And unfortunately, there's no good treatments. So that's why we lost 80% of our hives last year. It's a huge financial burden. If you also, you may have heard of the news in California during the almond bloom. They were losing millions of hives during the almond bloom. Again, there's a lot of research being done on how to control mites, but there's no sure way. But it's paramount in the industry that honey is not tainted by anything we're doing, and nothing that we can treat with can taint the honey within a hive.
So you don't use any?
We don't use the organic type treatments for our bees. No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brian, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
No one argued that you're not passionate and knowledgeable about what you do. You've educated us all, that was the point. I think, and a lot of this is in preparing this board, when you come back before us, with your master plan and some of the variances that business district. So what ordinance applies to me? And so in effect, we're going to collaborate on, the goal is to collaborate on this and come up with the right answer that allows you to operate your business the way you want to. And like any ordinance, I always say this with the attorneys, if you might have, all these things are written with public health and safety and life safety in mind, and public nuisance and all the other things which we're charged with, right? And so a big part of it is also being able to reassure residents that what you're doing there doesn't pose any public safety risk, right? And so that's a big part of, that's where education comes in, because someone says, oh my God, there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bees. If my children are out playing across the street, are they susceptible to being swarmed and attacked? And this is just an education process. And so it's a big part of educating this board, we'll be educating the planning commission when they hear this, as it relates to the number of bees and or hives. And that's why separating out sort of, what I heard were 20 to 30 standard hives that will be educational purposes primarily. And then you'll have these, packages and the nucleus hives that are all part of the process for turning over and selling, and they come and they go and they come and they go. So at any given time, what we'll have to figure out is with the comings and the goings, how do we really codify what that looks like so that we can say, here's sort of, there's some limitation, if you will, and reassure the public that there's some limitation that doesn't unduly become too onerous for you, right? So that's the goal. That's why we're educating ourselves today, to make that simpler for us. And we expect to work with you to create that. And so what other communities are doing where you've been operating is relevant. We don't need to recreate the wheel that works there. We're not ashamed to copy and paste if it's a good idea, right? So that's a big part of that. So thanks for taking the time out and bringing all your props with you. And
I'm going to leave them here for next week. That's all right.
that's fine. We can find a place to keep it. Did you bring any honey with you?
I didn't.
Are there bees in there?
There's no bees.
This was all going swimmingly. I didn't get my wife a Christmas gift. Yeah, I was hoping for a nice jar of honey to give to her. Maybe they're stocking.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Thompson before we let him run?
Thank you.
Thanks again, Brian, for being here.
Yes.
Happy holidays to you, and I'm sure we'll be in touch on it.
I'll leave them here if you want to look through them.
That was helpful.
Thank you.
Information in December 11th, so week from Thursday.
Is there a camera of this?
Yes, that's fine.
We'll find some, if we can put it, or we can keep it here, honestly.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to touch it, it'll stay right there, it'll be safe.
Sure.
Yep.
And then you'll have it here, you want it all around again. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Next item, agenda 6. Item 6 is offering for the public to address the board on agenda items. Seeing one here wanting to do so. You gentlemen are part of the agenda that we get to, which is right now, item 7A, which is a consideration of an ordinance granting an after the fact special use permit, permit the continued operation of the business for the restoration and storage of vehicles at 22029 North Pepper Road, units 4 and 5, Lake Barrington, Illinois. Would you like to set this one up?
Sure. This item before the village board this evening was regarding a plan commission and zoning board of appeals meeting that we had in November. They had a public hearing in consideration of an after-the-fact special use permit for the continued operation of the business for the restoration and storage of vehicles on the property. The public hearing was held on Thursday, November 13th, 2025. The Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously recommended the approval of the after-the-fact special use permit for McClary Auto LLC located at 22029 North Pepper Road, Unit 4 and Unit 5 in Lake Barrington. Before the village board this evening is the ordinance granting the after-the-fact special use permit A few of the items that were listed out in the special use permit are the after the fact special use permit has been granted for the continued operation and maintenance in good condition of a business consisting of the restoration and storage of vehicles and units 4 and 5 of the subject property is consistent with the Village of Lake Barrington comprehensive plan as amended. The uses which would be permitted by the after the fact special use permit herein granted are consistent and compatible with surrounding land uses and other uses permitted in the M district.
We've already been through this.
Yes.
You want to just hit the highlights?
Okay, perfect.
Everybody here knows it.
All right. With regards to the triple catch basin, no triple catch basin is presently located within either Unit 4 or Unit 5 of the subject property. If the petitioner begins to engage in the restoration and or repair of any vehicles which involves the filling or discharging of any vehicular or automotive fluids of any kind, the petitioner shall be required to install a triple catch basin within Unit 4 and or Unit 5 in the building on the subject property, which triple catch basin shall be maintained by the petitioner and or its successors and or assignees in proper operating condition. Building and fire code inspections and a review of exterior lighting shall be conducted and complied with by the petitioners within 90 to 120 days after the approval of this ordinance. However, if the petitioners provide evidence to the village administrator of having had a fire inspection of units 4 and 5 within the last 12 months and no material changes have been made to units 4 and 5 of the subject property since such fire inspection, this requirement shall be waived. And the last bullet point is if none currently exist within Unit 4 and Unit 5 in the building on the subject property, carbon monoxide detection devices that comply with the village code and any other applicable codes shall be installed at the petitioner's sole cost and expense within the building on the subject property, and a sprinkler system for fire suppression shall also be installed at the petitioner's sole cost and expense if required by the village code within 90 to 120 days after the approval of this ordinance by the corporate authorities of the village and maintained in proper operating condition. With that, we had discussed with the petitioner that if a licensed architect or licensed engineer is able to provide us a letter indicating that the units do not need the fire suppression system, that would be adequate.
Thank you for the setup. Mr. McCleary, did you want to come forward and just introduce yourself? Mr. McCleary is the petitioner, and if you would hit the little button there, just introduce yourself and point me in if you have anything that you would like to say, and then we can make yourself available to questions from the board.
Sure, yeah, Charlie McCleary.
So welcome.
And good to meet everybody. Yeah, and I just want to clarify that we don't operate a business out of there. This is my car collection and a place for me to go to get out of my house. We own a food manufacturing company, and we have plants all over the country, and mostly more favorable states for business.
But we won't get into that
Yeah.
tonight.
But yeah, any questions?
Yeah, I'll start to my left. Trustee Shaw, is there any questions for Mr. McCleary?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Mr. Danner?
Thank you for being here. Have you always been a car fan?
Yeah, well, that's my hobby. I collect them, and we still have one daughter, and one son in the house, so most of my official offices are at one of our manufacturing plants somewhere in another state. So I work out of my house and a fair bit, so I just try to get out of there. And so I have a small office and our car collection at the location.
Thank you.
Good evening, thanks for coming. So how many cars do you typically keep there?
It's a good question. There's maybe 10. Yeah.
Is that max space there at that point, or could you put some more in there?
But you could probably put some car lifts in there and get a few more in. Not too high, but I'm not that motivated to do it.
Got more cars than I do, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's your favorite car?
That's a good question. We've got a couple of early Broncos that are pretty nice. I don't know
Yeah, your presence is appreciated, and I recognize the special use after the fact thing. It happens, and working with us is a good way to go, so thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. My only question for you is this condition around fire protection sprinklers. Is this something that you're planning to research and get an engineer or an architect to review on your behalf to determine whether or not that's a requirement?
We had we were fire inspected in July,
Right.
so does that not?
No. No, the fire department, fire inspection is looking for all other code stuff, but when it comes to determining the need for fire suppression, if you will, we have ordinance that we've adopted, and then we need a professional person that you hire to do a review because it's unique to your space and it's unique to your use. So you have to have somebody determine it. It's my understanding that Administrator Peterson sent you a copy of the document that somebody else had prevented. They're actually in the car repair and restoration business. And it was deemed that they did not need fire suppression based upon the building structure and based upon the use that they had. So we're actually somewhat optimistic and hopeful that that would be the same finding for you, but we don't know until you have a professional person look at that and make that determination. So they collaborate with us in the fire department to make that determination, but it has to be, you have to initiate that process.
Okay. So when I paid the fee, the $3,500 fee, it was supposed to be for those items, or just in addition to that? If so, what's the $3,500 for?
So, what the architect or engineer would determine is whether or not an exception to our requirement that sprinklers be installed would apply to your business and that space.
Right.
And so that is something that if you don't want to install sprinklers, that you at your own request would hire someone to see if one of those exceptions applies to you. Because the general rule for the International Building Code, which has been adopted by the village, would otherwise require sprinklers for a new use going in, and there are a long list of exceptions that would apply, and it's our understanding that this is very similar to the other business where they did find that an exception applied. You could even inquire with that particular architectural firm who would be very familiar with exactly what you would need to undergo. But anyone who applies, in terms of your specific question, anyone who applies for any kind of zoning relief, including a special use, is required to pay specific fees, and including consultation fees, whether that's engineering, legal, whatever, the specific time, and so there's a deposit that's always required for that, and anything that's not used of those funds for that deposit is then returned to you. Does that answer your question?
So it's the same use the building's had for the last 12, 15 years, so why is it a special use in my first question?
A special use doesn't transfer from one entity to another unless the specific ordinance provides for that. So anytime a new business comes in,
This is
they
why
need
I
a new
don't have
special use.
manufacturing plants in the state.
That's typical for municipalities in Illinois, and not unusual. So that's how the special uses work.
Tom, did you talk to anybody about that during your inspection process? About engineering firm?
No.
So the issue is that since there's no special use already granted for this space, that's why the requirement is a life safety issue. We have to make it our business and know what's happening in our business park, whether it's a business or whether for what purpose it's being used. And then we have to make sure that use, whatever that use is, so your special use is specifically stated as basically a restoration and storage, right? Personal restoration and storage. So that's acknowledged. So this is to ensure that all the ordinances that we have that govern this are in place, because what we need to be able to do is protect the public, protect you, protect your neighbors we have a right and have a need to know what's going on in those buildings. If we don't.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm just,
So the special use comes with what is being done inside that building, and there's a difference between storing cars or a car shop or whatever that might be. So the only way we know is to inquire and understand the use and then make sure that there's compliance. And so it's clear that it feels onerous to you, and I get that, appreciate and understand that. We're not actually trying to be difficult, but for us to not do this would be dereliction of our own duty that we're sworn to do. So,
do you know who the engineering firm was? Because, I mean, spending $200,000 on one of those old buildings is cost prohibitive.
yeah, and you know what, we've been discussing all along that that would be our expectation is that it would be cost prohibitive, but our expectation is that's a deal killer.
Okay.
It generally is any business that comes here and wants to apply for a unique use. Because if you built it from the ground up, it would all be required, and that's the code. Any business that you would build from the ground up, in fact, houses here that you build from the ground up have sprinkler systems, as does mine, which I thought was crazy at the time too. But I have the only house in most of this Chicagoland area with a sprinkler system in it. But so the point is, what we say is we would impose that upon you, and then it's incumbent upon you to come back and say, no, I believe I'm an exception because I went out and saw a professional opinion. They'll write that opinion. So yes, we can resend it. One of the emails.
That one you sent me was the one that was. Okay.
Yes.
So there was maybe some information redacted, but the reality was we wanted to show you what it looked like, what changed. We wanted to show you specifically that business, which I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you if you didn't want to recreate the wheel. They've got experience in this park, and they've got experience in a very similar situation. We're actually, trust me when I tell you, everyone up here is very hopeful that the answer is you don't need it, right? I'm hopeful.
I understand. I'm just.
That's the bottom line. But we need a professional to tell us that, and none of us here are qualified to do that.
Sure.
So I think that's the key to this whole thing. So in effect, what we're saying is we are willing to grant the special use permit per the planning commission's recommendation, and you're going to agree within 90 to 120 days to go away and get an answer to whether or not this is needed.
That's fine.
Okay, that's really all we're trying to get out of this at this point.
Don't expect it to be onerous. I was in business building stuff. This is normal practice for architect and engineer to look at it and give a quick opinion. So it's not a one, it's pretty straightforward.
They know how to do it. They know this code. They know our code. They review our code. They look at your building. They understand what you're doing in it, and then they make their professional determination based upon that. Yep. And once that's presented to us as evidence, then that in effect the condition that the planning commission imposed that we would be voting on tonight would be satisfied.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Did you want to introduce your colleague back there real quick?
Yeah. Mr. Tom Hills.
Hi everyone. So I am.
You want to come up first?
Yeah, of course.
I didn't mean to keep you sitting back
No,
there, but
no,
I
sure.
He's much
I didn't know whether you wanted to, you
You're much
know.
better looking than I am.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of negotiations to purchase the building, and I don't know whether or not I'll get it, but things like what Charlie is dealing with, can be deal killers. So like if I don't know what the potential costs are for Charlie, I can't purchase the building.
Right.
Like, so you can do it for 90 days, 120 days.
Right.
The deal's dead.
Right.
You can extrapolate that out to anyone else who wants to buy, an asset in the park too. So, I'm just sitting back there, thinking about that. Like, I now can't buy the building with not knowing the determination.
Right.
And I'm also wondering, what deemed a special use? I mean, the tenant prior to Charlie was doing the exact same thing he was doing for, I don't know how long, probably 10 years, over 10 years. So, I just, owners just need to know exactly what they're dealing with, the environment that they're dealing with, and so that they don't get surprised. And so, you know, I buy this building, and then all of a sudden I find out that potentially it does need to be sprinklered. You know, you have all C and D buildings, primarily in the park,
Right.
and people are there because the rent is at a certain rate, and, you know, it will be cost prohibitive for anyone to own an asset in the park if they do have a sprinkler any of those things.
Right.
The sprinklering requirement has been in effect for over 20 years, almost 30 years. So that's not new. And the special use requirement for vehicular uses like this has been in effect for many years also. If a business was there prior to that going in, which was at least more than 10 years ago, then it would be a legal non-conforming use if it was in effect then. But as soon as that a new business takes the place, that special use requirement applies to it. You know, it sounds like probably the business that was there before was operating when it should have had a special use and was operating without one. But unless they were operating before that special use requirement went into effect.
So as an owner of the building, which I already own one building, park, is the onus on the building owner to make sure that you are aware of all of what everyone's doing in each of the units?
Yes.
Okay, I think I fill out a form, you know, every year.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of how this came to light is that admittedly, in the past, there was not the same scrutiny that was being applied across the business park. And one of the goals that we set for ourselves, both from an economic development and from a life safety standpoint, was that we have almost 400 businesses in this park, and we honestly figured out that we don't know what a lot of people do. And if you really think about that for a minute, it's a little bit scary. Like, in other words, we should and have every right to know what people are doing with the structure. So I know we use the word business, and you're saying, well, it's not a business, but it's in the business park, and it's zoned as a business district. Therefore, we have to treat it as a business. So maybe it's semantics, but you get what I'm saying. If you told me you wanted to live in there and you wanted to outfit it as a house, I don't know if you, does anybody that can do that? No. Oh, they can't do that. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm just saying it's kind of an intriguing idea, but if you really want to get away,
Or if I just got sleeping off for a couple of hours.
correct. But so all of it falls into that. So what the team here has been doing, and I'm very appreciative of it, is particularly it started with the business licensing process, and then it starts with the fire inspection. What we finally are doing is we've really learned and identified in the ownership, who's owning, who's leasing. It's all important stuff because we need to be able to communicate appropriately with folks. We need to keep you apprised of what's going on. We need all that stuff and the business outreach to everything else. So it's been a Herculean effort. Fortunately or unfortunately, what happens is you come across something, and maybe the most blunt way to say it is, we didn't know what was going on there. We didn't know what the original people were doing in there. And so now that we are aware, we can't stick our head in the sand. We have to at least say, let's make sure we give the person the opportunity to apply for that special use, and then we work with you to sort through that and see what comes out of that. And like I said, we're very hopeful. And now that you codify that, and that gives you as the prospective building owner, then the peace of mind to know now that's not going to be imposed on me. However, let's say you are the owner, and let's say that this gentleman decides he's done with that, and somebody wants to do something else, and this is part of the outreach that I know that Sharon spoke to you about. Now we want to make sure that before you ever started looking at signing leases, you say, what's your business? What do you want to put in there? And then the next call is here, and then we get together and go, are there any questions about this, or are there any special considerations that need to be thought through? We don't want to surprise you, and we don't want you to be owning something and not be able to do the things that you want to do. So in fact, we want to get out in front of this stuff. This is the whole goal. We're playing catch up right now, so we're not out in front of it. Fortunately, want to let's try to, accelerate this process to keep it within the window where you have to make a commitment. And the acceleration of that would be to get the answer to this really critical issue. And if we can get that answer, and you can say not necessary, you can read the side of relief, and then you have full knowledge. If you go in and want to complete that deal, you now have full knowledge of what's going on there, because we would not want to surprise you with that.
Kind of think honeybees after that first presentation.
There you go.
You put some on tops of buildings, believe it or not.
Yeah, you can have some. You can put them right up on the top. So I hope we're all kind of clear on why this is not to be a pain in the butt. This is a process that we are following, and we're actually trying to do it as transparently and also as expeditiously as we can. We're not trying to create red tape.
And I would just add real quick that there are a number of uses that are permitted uses in the industrial park. You don't have to go through the special use process. There are only specific types of uses, automotive, vehicular uses like this being one of them, that require a special use permit, which is this more onerous process. We try not to make onerous, but that there are a number of permitted uses. All you have to do is register your business and you can grant it. So it's
And and well said. And the automotive thing just triggers alarms because are you painting them? Are you restoring them? Are you tearing them apart? Are you generating fluids? And these are all things that we have a responsibility to control. And so if somebody's painting them, they have to make sure that they're collecting the fumes. And again, so that you're not poisoning your neighbors with your paint fumes. And then somebody comes to us and says, did you know that they were refurbishing and painting cars in that building? And not knowing doesn't make it okay from our standpoint. So the car thing triggers all this. And the special use is, okay, you've been very clear about what you're doing, which means you don't need the triple basin traps because you're not putting fluids down the drain. And hope you're not painting, so you don't need paint booths. And hopefully the use also doesn't trigger the building or your use doesn't trigger a need for sprinklers. As I said, they're all rooting for you. We hope that we can determine that sooner or later.
The question on the drain I have is, I own manufacturing buildings. Seems like it's more of a liability to have the triple basin drain than the way it's set up now. There's no drain. So there's no way for it to get out. It's a concrete floor, not sloped to the doors with a concrete wall perimeter. It's like anything in that happen. You have more liability by putting a drain in there than you do right now. Because there's no drain.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand when we say that. Is that meaning for an existing drain or saying that the drain has to be put in?
Well, it should be clarified because there's more liability for contamination by putting in a triple basin drain than there is right now.
So you're saying the building doesn't have floor
There's
drains?
0 floor drains.
So I don't know the answer to that. Do you know the answer to that? Or were we just assuming that it did?
We've actually had some of our manufacturing facilities, like in the maintenance shops, they'll have triple basin drains. And they'll wash forklifts and stuff in there. We'll concrete them over, so they have to clean it up, because they can still overload the triple basin drain.
So it's specified, the requirement for the triple catch basin is specified by the plumbing code. And so I would imagine if there's not an actual drain that is going outside the building, then you would not need the triple catch basin.
Yeah.
That being said, I have this code section of the plumbing code that spells it out. I can give you the code section if you're interested.
Well,
but I don't have the actual code printed out for that specific requirement.
My point is, there's just nothing there.
He's saying there are no drains.
There's no drain at all.
A lot of the facilities that are there, especially with these automotive uses, do have drains already built into the floors, and so the goal is to prevent any automotive fluids or oils to going into storm sewers and
Totally get that.
Yeah.
So,
You raise a good distinction. I think we're maybe operating on, we just need to clear up the assumption that we're not saying you need floor drains and then you need to put triple basins in them. I think if they don't exist, then I think it becomes kind of a moot point.
Right.
Now, either way, I'm under the understanding that that's not your intention regardless, that you're going to be putting fluids on the ground or down the drain or anything else. So hopefully that's a non-issue, but you do raise a unique distinction about that. And I don't think our intention is to ask people to put floor drains in.
And I think just for clarification too, again, in B and C type industrial buildings, most of them just do not have drains.
Right.
And they likely are not going to, so
They don't want to,
if
yeah,
you require it, which you would have to if you have a new building,
Correct.
I believe.
No, I don't think we're requiring a drain.
You
I
know,
don't think we should put a drain in and then protect it. I don't think that's the intention. So I'm glad that you raised that because it's good to point that we're clarifying that.
Yeah. Okay, President Burke and trustees, thank you for everything you do for everybody, keep everybody safe, and it's wonderful to hear that your institute are upgrading everything you're doing in the park and in the community. So my wife has been a village trustee on the board in Barrington Hills, and so keenly aware of all the work you do. So
No, thank you for that.
listening.
And, you know, we hope to partner with you, as Sharon said. A good part of the outreach, and what we're learning, like it comes to me as a complete surprise, you know, until your wife told me that you own a building in this park. See, every day there's a new surprise. And those are all, they're good, because nothing bad has ever come out of meeting business owners and people who own property. And I make it my point, and Trustee Hayes does our economic development and outreach. I mean, outreach is a big part of what we do, because the more we know, and the more business owners. I mean, just the other day, I was able to put 2 business owners. One guy said, I got this property, and this other person said, I need property, and they don't know each other. And all of a sudden I said, well, here. And next thing you know, they're having this conversation about what to do. This is the beauty, you know how this stuff works, and the more that we understand about who owns what and what they're trying to accomplish, we want to partner to do this. We also we'd love to elevate. We know that you're probably being generous at times with B and C. You know, we might have a lot of C and D. We wouldn't mind raising our average grade from a C minus to a B. We really wouldn't. It happens over time and gradually. And we realize a lot of this is built and it comes before us, and we can only do so much. But we'd like to improve the aesthetics in the park. We'd like to, because eventually we'd like people to come and want to be here because they like the aesthetic and they do like the business here, right? And so it's a process that will take time for us, but people like yourselves can help in that process and give us some thoughts on how we can do that and be a desirable place for people to come and own buildings, properties, or businesses, because that's a big part of what we want to be.
Anything I can do to be helpful.
Absolutely, we will. We appreciate you making yourself available, and thank you both for being here tonight. And keep us posted, please, if you want to talk further with Sharon about this person. But I would look at that note and I would call that number and I would say, you did it for this, somebody else in the park, can you come do it for me?
Yeah, and I will. I'll do that. And don't want to seem confrontational, but my wife is also on the Barrington Hills Board of Trustees, so I'm used to arguing with trustees.
There you go.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
I got one for you real quick.
Yes.
60s or 70s Bronco?
A 75 and a 77. Yeah. My son actually built them.
Beautiful.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night. Okay. Yeah, I was just going to ask if there were any other comments or questions now that we've any or concerns. Everybody's clear, yes? Okay.
The motion is written, does have that caveat?
Yes, that's what we reviewed in the meeting. You may have missed a little bit of it now that I think about it, because we led off with that. So,
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryan?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes, thank you very much. Next up, tax levy ordinance 2026. Last month, the village board adopted a resolution for a 0% increase in the village tax levy for 2026. This reflects the village's disciplined management of taxpayer dollars and its commitment to economic development. Treasurer, would you like to just expound on this a little bit for us, since you were so integral in allowing us, in helping us understand the financial position we were in?
Certainly. So right, as you mentioned, this basically codifies a resolution that was passed last month, setting the tax levy at $823,000. That has not been raised now for 5 years, even though inflation for this past year was about 3%, and cumulative over the last 5 years is probably about 25%. So I think that speaks very strongly to the village's management, its finances. The village is in a very strong financial position right now. At the end of fiscal year 25, the fund balance was 12 months, which what that means is the village could have no more revenue and cover their expenses for a full year with their fund balance. So that's what that means. Our fiscal policy states that we just need a minimum of 7 months, so we're well above our fiscal policy. Fiscal year 26, we're 6 months through. It's been a good year so far. We're well ahead of budget. Our revenues are ahead of budget, and our expenses are right on budget. So we expect to increase that fund balance this year. Over the years, the village has been really good at economic development, bringing up our sales tax to the village's coffers. Back in February of 2021, the state passed the level of playing field sales tax act, which brings a lot of sales tax dollars from online sales to the village as well. Those have been very helpful, not only helping us manage our expenses. Another thing happening this year is we're receiving money from 3 grants that we applied for back in 2024. I'm very hopeful that we're going to get that money, part of potentially in fiscal year 26, before next April, if not, definitely in calendar year 26. So all that being said, there's really no reason to raise the tax levy from the past levy. Any questions?
Thank you, Treasurer. No, this is super exciting. Kudos to you, your whole staff, all the staff, and the collective work of the staff and this board. It's a true team effort. As you say, we manage our costs effectively. We try to generate revenue as effectively as we can and be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. It's a balancing act. We don't want to hold more than we need, but we want to make sure there's enough there for the rainy day fund so that we can take care of the urgent business that needs to be taken care of. So I think we've done a fantastic job of doing that. It's certainly exciting to be able to say that this is the 5th year that we can hold this levy flat. And my predecessor used to say that's our goal. That's always our goal. Raising taxes here is the last resort for us. And so we're being as fiscally responsible as we can to avoid that. There are sometimes circumstances that are completely out of our control, but for those factors that we can control, we do a really fine job of controlling you, your team, and everybody in this room. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. So with that said, Chair would like a motion to approve ordinance number 2025-0-24, an ordinance for the tax levy and assessment of taxes for the village of Lake Barrington in the amount of $823,000. Do I have such a motion? So moved by Trustee Schaumelzer, seconded by.
Second.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Seconded by Trustee Hayes. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Briner?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Schaumelzer?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryan?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 8 on the consent agenda. Let's see. We have a number of items, right, that we'll be approving in block, correct? Item A, consideration of ordinance amending the village code, Title II, business and license regulations, and Title VI, public ways and public property of the village of Lake Barrington Village Code. B, consideration of an ordinance amending the village code, Title I, administration, section 1-10-7, fees, charges, and other amounts payable to the village, and Title VII, building regulations, chapter 1, general building regulations. C, consideration Policies and Procedures Manual. D, consideration of design engineering proposal from Gibbold Hamilton Associates, Inc. in the amount of $225,400 for the 2026 street resurfacing program. And lastly, E, approve the Village Board of Trustees, Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals 2026 regular meeting schedule. We talked about all of these in some length in the committee of the whole meeting. Is there any further discussion, questions, or concerns that need to be raised on these items at this time before we take it to a vote? Yes?
Just a typo error.
Oh, yes,
In
please.
action, it says 7A through 7E, it's actually 8A through 8E, because we made a change to the typical agenda order.
Oh, 8A through 8E.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Apologies for the mistake.
And I will state it as such to make it true. So, board would like a motion to approve in block, right?
Yes.
Items 8A through 8E, as stated in the recommended action of the consent agenda. Do I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Perkins. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by trustee Brainerd. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Brainerd?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Schauer?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9, which is the treasurer's report. Treasurer Hirsch, please make your way back to the podium.
Here I am. Okay, so I will start, I just alluded to it in our last talk about the tax levy. We've been working on these grants since October 2024, and there's been a lot of paperwork back and forth. In fact, when the state's fiscal year switched over, they had us redo all the paperwork on the new forms for the new fiscal year, so it's a bit frustrating. But we were just informed that the grant for the $100,000 infrastructure grant, all the forms are done, they're all complete, and it's been submitted for payment. So that we should get anytime soon. And the good news about those dollars is those dollars have been spent. So this is money coming in against expenses that have happened in the past. So this will be direct revenue. So that's the big one. There's 2 small ones still out there, but this was like really good news because I was doubting whether we'd get this money or not because it's taken such a long time. Anyways, so that's the good news tonight. Actually, there's no bad news. You have the financial statements for the 6 months ended October 31st in front of you. And we'll look at the flash report first. So you'll see we have assets of $4,077,000, liabilities at $407,000, and means your equity is $3,007,000. That's that number that keeps growing each month, which will probably come down a little before the year end because we'll have some expenses coming in, but it's really quite strong because we're at this point in the year. Revenues are $2,595,000. Expenses are at $1,890,000, giving us a net income of $704,000 and $705,000. That is compared to last year, this time of $218,000. We'll take all the usual things out to compare what we'll call our ordinary revenue or net income or loss. And that is $1,042,000 versus last year, $916,000. So that's a $126,000 difference. I'm sort of tired of saying each month it relates pretty much to a sales tax. And that number never ceases to amaze me each month. I look at, as soon as I get that report, I ask for it, I look at it, and go, oh my gosh, just look at it. So it's exciting. Since the new sales tax law went into effect on 1/1/25, that was a tweak they did to the existing law, which brought in some other items to this online sales tax. So it collected $320,000 extra from last year. So use tax is down because it's a kind of a corollary.
Excuse me, is that what the 325, is that net of use tax or is that?
No, so the use tax is down $67,000. So if you net the two, it's $270,000 or $250,000.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's just 6 months into our year. So it's all great stuff. This year, at this point, we have a quarterly report where we report on the MFT dollars that have been spent, actually non-MFT dollars. I'll get to that page real quick. So to date, we've spent $120,000 in what we call non-MFT road maintenance. That's road maintenance that goes through the general fund. And And you can see pretty much all the vendors have been Cuba Township. $82,000 have been for the monthly amount that we pay each month. There's been about $35,000 in basically culvert replacements that the Cuba Township has done for us. There was a little bit of excavating and concrete stuff that also went on. And then Lake County Treasurer from traffic signal maintenance for $410. And then there's just some little stuff on here. So nothing unusual, all actually relatively small. If you recall, all the road work went through the MedT fund this year, so that's reported in that fund. So looking at the budget to actual report, which follows the quarterly road maintenance page there, you'll see our revenues are 70% actual to budget, so we're trending well ahead of our 50% mark in the year. This is a point in the year too where we have revenue coming in that's pulling up that number. For instance, all our real estate tax has been collected. So that kind of pulls our percentage up in addition to the fact that our sales tax is 83% actual budget. So we keep talking about it, right? It's not a broke record. Hopefully it doesn't change, because when I have to talk about it going the other way, I'm going to be really sad. So hopefully that doesn't change on us. And then you can see our expenses then are at 55% actual budget. They're a little bit high, 5% over the halfway point, but we do have some items that have been clearly spent this year, for instance, interior building maintenance. That was where we budgeted and we spent, and it's already happened, so that pulls that percentage up a little bit. But there's really nothing that's unusual or that I feel I need to mention. I'm happy to, if anyone has questions about a particular item in the budget to actual, I can go through that at this point. Okay. Moving right along, we'll just go to the Northfield Tax Fund real quick, and you can see we've got assets in there, $570,000. We have one bill that should still come in around $100,000 for the road work that's been completed. So we more than have enough assets to keep going in this fund for 2 years from now. We'll use this fund again for road work. So that's in good shape. We collect about $20,000 a month in that fund. Okay.
Just to clarify, we are not using it this year, or we are?
We did use it this year.
Oh, we used it this past.
This
Previous, I got you, yes.
right now we use it, but
We've used
we're not using it all.
Got
I guess that's why that would be confusing.
it, right. And then are we using it next
We're
month?
using fiscal year 28.
So we'll skip, we're skipping it.
We kind of skip it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So what will happen is we did use the infrastructure fund in this next budget cycle, because that's the easiest way. Okay, and then going back to our sewer fund, we've got 9 different assets in there. Over $1.6 million or so, around $1.65 million. Nothing unusual to mention in this fund as well. If you go to the actual budget report, everything's pretty much on budget right now. We're 50%, 200% of revenue budget, actual budget, and expenditures at 46%. So we're right halfway through the year. And then lastly, our new fund, infrastructure fund, has about $265,000, $267,000 in there. We will use this fund next year, so we will have to make a decision at the end of this year how much money to transfer from the general fund to the infrastructure fund for work next year. And we know we're probably going to spend about $800,000 on roads next year. So that's what we've discussed in the past. So that'll come up in our budget meetings in the next 12 months. So that's all I have.
Have we spent that much money in road season? Do you know?
I want to say that's around, when I started working here a couple years ago, that was around what we were budgeting every year. Yes.
That's my recollection, yeah. That'd be kind of higher end, but yeah.
This year it was a lot less because it was the Wedgewood Trail subdivision and it was a much smaller subdivision. But when I first started, we were doing half of Barrington Harbor Estates and a couple other roads. And then last summer of 2024, we did the other half of Barrington Harbor Estates. And that was probably, I want to say maybe around 700,000, somewhere in that ballpark.
And we have a 5-year plan that we're going to work towards. That's going to be very helpful.
Yep.
in the process going forward.
Good.
Okay, so looking at the warrants, it's actually been a relatively quiet month. There's just a few to mention on warrant A. One is the ANPS, AMPS for $35,500, and that's for the wastewater and solar proposal project that the board approved last May and the work that's been done. And then just a small one for Cuba Township, $3,000 $1,822.98, and that was the village clerk and the village administrator, travel expenses and so forth for training. Any other questions?
Other questions for the treasurer? We're all good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, with all that said, thank you, Treasurer Burke. Chair would like a motion to approve in block items 9A through 9D above. This is for financial statements as of October 31st, 2025. Pay bills in the amount of $141,269.06 as listed on accounts payable warrant A dated December 2nd, 2025. Pay bills in the amount of $137,506.38 as listed on the accounts payable warrant B dated December 2nd, 2025. And D, pay bills in the amount of $1,822.25 as listed on the accounts payable warrant C dated December 2nd, 2025. Do I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Van Ryn.
Second?
Second by Trustee Perkins. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Brennan?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Schauber?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
And President Burke?
Yes, thank you very much. Agenda item 9E, 2026 Employee Health Insurance. Staff has received 2026 Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal quotes. The insurance committee is recommending retaining Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO and HMO health insurance options, and the same Blue Cross Blue Shield dental option, as well as the continuation of a health savings account. Anything to add to this?
I do not have any to add this evening.
Okay, well, it's been discussed and reviewed and discussed. Any further discussion or questions required on this subject? If none, Chair would like a motion to approve the employee health and dental plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield as administered by Better Business Planning Inc., and that the HRA and HSA be administered by Flexible Benefit Service LLC. Do I have such a motion, please?
I still move.
Second, Trustee Rain. And second by Trustee Hayes. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brennan?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Schauber?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is item 10, which is the administrator's report. Sharon.
Thank you, President Burke. I do not have anything to report this evening, just wishing everybody a happy holiday season, and we'll see you in 2026.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Item 11, the clerk's report.
I also don't have anything to report, and wishing everyone a happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Cool. Okay, next up is agenda item number 12, which is reports of the various trustees. And you note that we have changed the nomenclature on this just for clarity's sake. And these will just for in the future be known as trustee reports, as opposed to what we used to call as committee reports, because we are not really operating committees. We're just obviously we were just only subject matter for the village. Okay, so the first item on these reports was branding and communications. Trustee Mayor.
Thank you, President Burke. I am excited to share with you some dates of community events happening in 2026 from the Barrington Area Chamber of Commerce. President and CEO Suzanne Core shared with us the Cocoa Crawl, which is very popular. We have happening Saturday, February 7th from 1 to 5 p.m. The second event is the Lake Barrington Wine and Design event, happening Saturday, April 11th, also from 1 to 5 p.m. And the third event is the Pepper Road Fest, happening Saturday, September 19th. So more details to come on all those, but wanted to get those on your calendar, especially the Cocoa Crawl coming up fast here on Saturday, February 7th from 1 to 5 for my favorites. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Questions for?
Quick question, the Pepper Road Fest is what day?
Pepper Road Fest is Saturday, September 19th.
September? Oh, boy. I was thinking it was going to be like much sooner. Yes. Okay.
Any other questions for Trustee Mayor? And I'd like to wish you a happy birthday.
Oh.
Yes, happy birthday. Next item is agenda item 12B, economic development. Trustee Hayes.
Doing well, enjoying it so far. Not as busy as the last one, so far. A couple things I do want to talk about that, and tonight was a great example. So Brian is going to be asking for variances, and he's going to have to go in front of the planning commission. I don't know much about bees. He's got some big asks, I think, but we don't know what we're voting on. How can we recently make a decision? I'm very happy he came in tonight and did that. I'm sure the planning commission will get their head wrapped around it, because at the end of the day, put 60,000 bees in one box and put it in my backyard. How are my neighbors going to do? I don't know. So I think that was very useful, but that, and then we're talking to a gentleman who has the cars, in the business park, and Rebecca and Jim have done a fantastic job of trying to get their hands wrapped around these issues that, maybe we just didn't get to them. But it really is an education piece, right, Therese? And, tonight was an example of, boy, how can we create forward-thinking publications, so to speak, so people don't have to come in and have this ambiguity. Kind of clear? I mean, we can't answer every question if it would come up, but there's a great opportunity here, I think, to lower the tension by educating and informing, and then also that relieves the staff from having to answer all these questions all the time. So I kind of identified that. I'm talking with Andy, he's seen the need over the years, so it's like, well, I'll jump on this one. But I think there's a great opportunity to help it, because we want the reputation of being user-friendly, we believe we are, but how do we perpetrate that better? And so that's kind of some things I'm observing and learning. So that's kind of that side of the fence. The other side I want to talk about, I left you a copy, went around the room. So I've been socializing this whole continuity of operations plan. We have a list of 10 volunteers, believe it or not. This was the email that I sent out to them today, saying, hey, we're going to do our first meeting on December 17th virtually to kind of set the conditions. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? I'm sharing this with you because I've talked to a few people like, I'd like to participate. Well, the minute we all get together more than 2 people, that violates the Open Meetings Act. So how do we do that? We're going to record it. And to the extent we can have 2 of us there at any one given time, fantastic. But I can't have everybody in all this. But this planning is going to start, but I intend to inform and educate. These recordings will be available for you guys if you want to look at it later. Not an issue, but this is the email that went out, it's just the start of it. This was predicated on the AMPS work, and we heard just kind of approve the AMPS payment. I think they did a very good job. The report is draft. It's got some adjustments that need to be done to reflect we're a government entity, not a private entity. It's kind of like some of the financial analysis. They did a very thorough job. They clearly identified opportunities and things that are no opportunities whatsoever. It's a lot. It's 200 pages of read that's very technical. So I've gone through it in detail. I've shared that with, so we're going to, over the next month, kind of dissect it a little bit more. But this planning team is going to take the output of that work as an input into their work. We're not in any extreme rush to decide on the AMPS proposal they gave to us, but it's very informative to help us make good decisions. So it's going to be months before we can really action on that piece of that work. So this process is going to flush all this out for us and do it. I put in my email, I put to put together a plan that is sensible. Okay, that's sensible, because you can't afford, you can't worry about every possible contingency and have a plan and an asset to deal with it. But I'm looking forward to this process. I'm looking forward to this team. So more to follow next month, but we're going to do a session a month with the team, and then they'll go off and have their own homework assignments. With the idea of probably about June next year, we have a draft of a plan and a path forward. So by the time Peggy gets into any budgeting cycle, we have an opportunity to socialize it, and we'll get to the right solution and actions when it makes sense to us, and it's sensible. So I just wanted to share that because that's sitting out there. So that's all I have.
Great report, thank you, appreciate your leadership on that. Any questions for Trustee Hayes? If not, we'll move on to, I lost my agenda. We will move on to item C, which is external relations. That's me. I don't have a report this evening. So next is D, Finance, Human Resources, and Administration. Trustee Shaw.
Thank you, President Burke. We reviewed our employee compensation packages, and we'll be publicizing that over the next several days. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Trustee Shaw? Item E, Roads and Infrastructure. Trustee Brainerd.
Thank you. I'm just following up with all of you. Last month at the meeting, I had said I would follow up on access roads, the access road in Good Shepherd to get to the Enclave. And I did so. And administration there actually 3 months ago had figured out that there had been a lease agreement with the Enclave to use that access road, but that lease ended 10 years ago. So the road should not have been used, and it was and continued to be, but they took action 3 months ago to chain it off. They have had some plans to go ahead and plant 1,000 trees, and they so started that. So we do not have the access any longer. So we're going to get creative. I have the map, and I've been looking at other ways we can address it, and we're going to be meeting to try to figure that out, Sharon, Peter, and myself. And that's it.
Just going to have a question. Enclave is a gated community, right?
Yes, it's right off of Great Bar Lane.
Tallgrass is a gated community, and as part of that development, there was an access and still is an access road off of River Road, designed primarily so that emergency vehicles could gain access to that from a different location than where the gates are. Isn't that the similar situation in Enclave?
Yes, there is an access road off Flint's Creek subdivision, but it's still residential. It's not off of any major thoroughfare like Kelsey. So you have to go through a residential area. And the whole objective of this, to find a solution, and I appreciate your help on it, is to avoid heavy trucks delivering concrete and timber and so on. So whether it's the Heritage Estates Road or Flint Creek Road, it's still a residential road that could cause harm. And I believe we just 2 years ago, I think we did Flint Creek, and it's beautiful still. So there is no other access without disruption to residential streets other than the access road. That's the only non-residential road for construction traffic.
But it wasn't designed for construction, it was designed for emergency vehicles.
No. We're confusing two different things.
Okay.
There is an emergency back exit that empties into Flint Creek at the back of the Enclave.
Oh, okay.
It still exists.
That's
And
good.
if you recall, there was a lot of discussion around one of the neighbors that was a little bit concerned about people cutting through.
Yeah.
So if you go there, you saw there's a paved roadway, there's a gate, and the fire department has access. So that is it. This was literally a road off Kelsey, or off of 22, that actually bypassed all of that and was allowed for construction traffic to keep construction vehicles off the residential roads.
Okay.
And so what Trustee Rayner is reporting is that is no longer available as an option, but it does affect the emergency vehicle access. So
Okay.
I know it's a little confusing, but that's the distinction.
Thank you.
So no threat to public safety.
Right. Okay.
Just a threat to road wear. And
Yes.
so that's why we're looking, if there's additional construction that needs to be done in there, we're trying to find a way to keep it off the roads, particularly if we want to get in and start paving.
Yeah, right.
That's the,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, that's the point. But thank you for the follow-up on that. Disappointing to hear, but at the same time, well in their prerogative to claim that back 10 years later. So look at it this way, we got to use it for 10 years longer than we expected to. let's talk about public safety.
We can talk about public safety, and since we have our new representative from the Lake County Sheriff's Department, Sergeant Knight, would you like to step to the podium here and bring us up to date on what's happening with the Lake County Sheriff's Department and the village of Lake Barrington and anything? I'm getting an awful lot of scams. Matter of fact, we just had something today. One of the residents that said they were going to inspect his roof, and we found out that we're not doing anything with roofs. So what was this? And they never did show up, but a lot of scams this time of year.
I wish I had more to report. I've been on vacation since mid-November until go back to work on Thursday.
Okay.
But it's this time of the year, time of scams. People are going to be calling to say they're for this agency or this, support this group or that. And they're going to ask for weird things that normally agencies wouldn't ask for. They're going to ask for gift cards, wire transfers, or now Bitcoin. If anything comes out like that, we're suspicious of that nature, tell them to contact me or send me a letter. I'll like tell them, but sure, you're with a Unicef. Send me a mailer so I can get it that. Or give me a link that I can actually attach to that. Just don't take it over the phone. They'll try pressure tactics, and it kind of works with people my age to get a pressure and scared into, well, I got to do it. But don't do that, especially if they start saying, I'm Sergeant so-and-so from the Lake County Sheriff's Office. We have a warrant for your arrest. Well, we're not going to call you. You're going to get a letter in the mail from the clerk's office, you get a warrant. But we're not going to say, hey, by the way, come here. But you pay for it right now. You know, Bitcoin, go to Walmart, get a bunch of gift cards, whatnot. It's fishy. But some people fall prey to that. So the more we can just think about it, think logically, don't be pressured at anything. If you find something suspicious, just contact it. Okay, fine. What's your name again? What's your contact number? People think you'll give me a call back and go through the sheriff's office and call us to the non-emergency number. We'll verify or debunk what's really going on. So that's me next. Tis the season for that to start up again. So just everybody stay the same thing. Something doesn't sound right or something's too good to be true. Just nothing.
And from the Fraternal Order of Police, I'm taking a recollection. Will you call?
I used to be a part of our fraternal watch and our telemarketers. We did that. I don't know if you're still doing that or not, but you have to be careful with those as well.
Yeah.
Who is the president of the fraternal watch? Who can I contact? Send me a mailer. I like sending them. I'm old-fashioned. They'll never send you anything. They're not legit. The gentleman will send you the mail. They'll send postage to get that donation. But then it gives you time to verify through the sheriff's office who's the fraternal president, who to contact, and then verify the information. Always verify before you spend the money.
Final question for you and President Berg is interested. Any new developments on electric vehicles and any incidents in the county that you're aware of that has been a problem?
I have not. Last week you guys talked about bicycles and different. That was enlightening for me because I didn't think about that. And then time off, I watched different types of bicycles and either from two-wheelers, three-wheeler, and single-wheel electric vehicles running around. It does make sense to have ordinances to reflect the actual power or strength of that vehicle. For something simple where a little kid just needs to be helmet on, or does it need glasses, or need a license, does it have to be insurance and whatnot. Different classifications bring different structures. So the more we educate ourselves, the better we can be.
At the Palatine Village Council, there was an email that received on their review of this, and they talked about permitting ages 15, having to have a learner's permit, not require a license for anyone over age 18. Public feedback, unsafe riding behavior, near-miss incidents, accidents involving these devices. So they really need the state, I think we're looking for the state to do that before we do, but still public areas establishing clear rules for safe and responsible use of all these vehicles. So it's still something that we're trying to keep an eye on and see what's developing.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, so appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
Thank you. Yeah. Stay safe. Of course, the next item that we have on our agenda will have to do with keeping that sheriff's department as our police department, so stick around for the vote. Take it up. We spent spent some time, Administrator, Chairman, and Trustee Hayes and Rebecca with the police, or the chief of the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District, in trying to update various things regarding the inspections of what we're talking about this evening. And we have the meeting with Chief Matisi, and we do have a meeting set up with Kurt Hesselman from Wakanda. Number one, to figure out exactly what we're expecting from them, what the expectations are. But I think also, as has been brought up, updating and being aware of the codes and what relates to them, and what the fire departments really are looking for, and how we can, if in fact some of our codes are outdated, to update them so that they confirm with, coincide with what the departments are looking for as far as inspections, as far as things that are necessary. So both Chief Matisi and Chief Hesselman have agreed to help us with this process. Not going to happen overnight, but a lot of credit to our people here for number one, wanting to update it, and number one, the cooperation we're getting from the departments to help us in that. The Wakanda Fire Department did approve the intergovernmental agreement coinciding with that. Barrington Countryside did last month. Wakanda just did their meeting last week. And one final thing, it's interesting, we talk about our tax levy, zero. Fire departments have the ability to raise their tax levy 4.9% each year, and they attempt to get that. Now, that's the level that they have to do before they have a public hearing on raising the tax levy. So both departments have authorized going out at 4.9% with the expectation that it'll only go up 3%. So again, kudos to the Village of Lake Barrington for maintaining our tax levy while taxing bodies around us. There was, I think it was an article in the Tribune that indicated municipalities and fire departments should not necessarily always look for the highest that they can raise the tax levy without having to go for public hearing. So again, kudos to us for what we do, and keep an eye on what our taxing bodies around us are doing. And that's it. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Trustee Shelley and Sergeant Hyman. We appreciate both of you reporting tonight. Moving on, last but not least, open space and special events.
Thank you, President Burke. I really don't have much to report other than Rebecca and I have been working alongside former trustee Jim Thompson, talking about our 4th of July, actually 2nd of July celebration. And we also today almost secured all of our bands for next year for the Sunset Serenade. So that's it. Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you. Can you
Yes.
say just a little bit more about our big 250th anniversary
Oh, we
celebration?
are going to have one.
Tease us a little bit.
We're going to have one heck of a shindig. It's going to be it's going to be a special Thursday night. We're doing it on Thursday.
Where is it going to be?
Well, where would you think it would be? Fair Farm. Yes. So yes, we're going to, along with the veterans of LDS, we're teaming with them, and we're going to have a nice big celebration. We'll have a brave, no fireworks. Now we have a lot of open space here in Lake Barrington, if you're not aware, and
I am.
it would be. Are you okay? It could pose a possible dangerous situation having fireworks. So we're not going to have fireworks, but we'll have the Brave Hearts. We'll have the what's the motorcycle gang? Or not gang, but lots of wonderful things. So we kind of like a mini, barn stomp, if you will. But it'll be the 4th of July, 250th celebration. So yes, there'll be more to come on that. Lots more.
Okay,
Lots of flags, lots of.
That was
I was kind of trying to roll this along a little quicker, but yes.
No, that's good tease, thank you. I just was curious. I know you're on it.
No, it's gonna be fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a band, so.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Item 13, old business, there is none. Item 14, resolutions, as we were referring timely. Consideration of intergovernmental agreement for contract police services by and among the village of Lake Barrington, the village of North Barrington, the county of Lake, and the Lake County Sheriff. We had extensive conversation on this in the committee of the whole meeting. And not afraid to say in front of the sergeant that nothing but praise for the service that your department provides, and even maybe more importantly, the relationship that we've enjoyed for a long time. And it's also recognizing the resource that what we love, in addition to the 3 cars that patrol here, is that what we understand the resources that are behind that. And a lot of communities that have their own police forces do not have the resources that the Lake County Sheriff has. So we feel very fortunate to have you providing that service for us. And more importantly, you guys have always been an integral part of our community, very open to and responsive to feedback, requests for support, for help from every level of the organization, including your sheriff, John Lundberg. He's such a fan. I bumped into him not too long after you were here. He knew exactly, that Lieutenant Kirk and you were coming in. And he knows. I was telling people he knows what's going on. We had a wonderful chat. He's a really warm individual, but he also knows what's going on around him, and he always talks about how much he appreciates the relationship with us. So there's some a lot of mutual respect there, but more importantly, the service speaks for itself. So after considering and looking at everything, there's overwhelming support for continuing this relationship, and we'll solidify that tonight by approving another 3-year contract, correct?
Yes.
So was there any further questions or discussions before doing so? If not, Chair would like a motion to adopt resolution number 2025 R-12, approving the intergovernmental agreement for contract police services by and among the village of Lake Barrington, the village of North Barrington, the county of Lake, and the Lake County Sheriff. Do I have such a motion, please? Moved by trustee Schauer, do I have a second by trustee Van Ryn? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Briner?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schauer?
Yes.
Trustee Schauer?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes, thank you. So Sergeant Heine, you can be the first to let the good news official. We're stuck with each other for the next 3 years. How about that?
I would never say that.
Yes. We get to,
Partnered with.
we are partnered with you for the next 3 years. Well said. Item number 15, new business. There is none. I see no one here who wants to address the village board. We've eliminated the need for the closed session. Hallelujah. There is an other. I realized under the President's remarks we got so sidetracked, and I really had a couple of quick things that I just wanted to say to the President's remarks, so I'm going to take that opportunity now. Everybody get comfortable. We'll take a quick bathroom break, and I'll come back with my complete speech. Now, a couple of quick things. One is just wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, whatever holiday you celebrate this time of year, from myself, from the board, to our entire community, and just reminding people what the spirit of this is. It goes beyond giving gifts, so it's about, a little bit more than that, and taking the time to acknowledge that. And it's a lot about people, it's a lot about kindness, and it's a lot about doing good things for other people. So just encouraging people to take the time to do that and enjoy the holidays and stay safe. And secondly, it's time for me to publicly thank this board and this staff for the tremendous work that you noticed by me. I appreciate the support that you've given me very directly as I've taken the helm from former President Richardson. We've all been very responsive to that, and very supportive of me, and I appreciate that. And we have not broken stride one bit, and we are just getting better every day. So that's because of your efforts. So thank you to this board for the time and energy that you put in, the passion that you show for our, and it's why our community is really very lucky to have people of your talents represented up here. And I mean that sincerely. It's a talented group of people. And we are collectively and collaborating to work in this community's best interest. And all indications that I get is that our residents are very pleased with what we do, and our business owners are very pleased with what we do, and that's because of your continued efforts. So thank you very much for that, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, or whatever you celebrate this time of year for all of you and your families as well.
And thank you for your leadership.
You're welcome. It's my distinct privilege and pleasure to be sitting here. I had dinner with former President Richardson last week. He said to say hello to each and every one of you if he hasn't kept up with you. And he's doing quite well. And we had dinner at the Lake Barrington Steakhouse. Surprise, surprise. And overstayed our welcome. I think they had to close the lights off by the time that we were ushered out of there. But they're so gracious for us being there that they didn't know it in the tickets out. I think it's time to go. Every light is off except the one right in front door. So, but it was great to see him. He's doing well, and I'm sure we'll see him around as well. So with that, as Kevin used to say, President Richardson, his favorite part of the meeting is adjournment. So the chair would like a motion to adjourn the Board of Trustees meeting. Do I have such a motion, please?
So